Hello and welcome to the 58th episode of From Impossible to Inevitable. I am your host, Megan Bauer. Thank you so much for joining me today and for pushing play on today's episode. If you're listening in on a podcast platform, please know that there's a YouTube version you can watch if that feels more your style. And of course, the show's on podcast platforms as well. Um, Today, I have a quote that I want you to consider as food for thought. I have been reading this month this book called Discipline is Destiny by Ryan Holiday. And he is a modern day philosopher. He is very well read, very well versed in history and not just events, but in people and their backgrounds and their habits and their temperament. And it's a really incredible book that has um, stories about the lives of people all the way back from the Roman philosophers to modern day people. So it's an inspiring read. I haven't yet finished it. I'm near the end, but I have read his other book, Courage is Calling, which I have an episode for. And I've read that book twice, and it's a phenomenal read as well. So I actually have all of his books, but this is just the second one that I've read, and I will be reading the other ones this year. I intend to anyway. So anyways, I wanted to share a bit from his book, Discipline is Destiny, and it is all about temperance and tempering yourself, being disciplined in your choices and deliberate really in your choices, and really being in control of yourself and master of yourself, which I think is just a really interesting and inspiring idea most people would say that they're in control of themselves, but there are times when you don't feel in control of yourself. Maybe those are the times when you're like, oh, I shouldn't get a second helping of dinner, but I'm going to. Oh, I shouldn't, hit the snooze button, but I'm going to. I shouldn't, whatever, but I'm going to. And those are the times where he would point out that you're actually not in control of yourself. You know what you should do, what you actually want to do. You know your day will be better if you just get up when you set your alarm to get up. But instead, you're pushing snooze, which is actually making your day start off in a rush. Like instead of being able to get ready at a nice, decent pace, all of a sudden you have to take a quick shower. Instead of, blow drying your hair like you want to, you'd throw it up or you put it in a braid. That's what I do. Or, this or that. And you start cutting corners because you chose to sleep in. And it doesn't actually help. It just makes it a more frazzled start to the day. So those are the instances in which Ryan Holiday would make the argument of you're not actually in control of yourself. If if something happens on the freeway and somebody cuts you off and you just go off, that's not being in control of yourself, because that person can't hear you. They don't even really care. And you're not really stopping to just rein yourself in. You're the only one being upset by this. And it's just making a negative impact on your day by allowing yourself to get so worked up over something as trivial as being cut off on the freeway. So I'm going to read you a little part of his book. I really liked this. And this is something that I really want to be more mindful of in implementing in my life. So here we go. We know that between every stimulus and its response, every piece of information and our decision, there is space. It is a brief space, to be sure, but one with room enough to insert our philosophy. Will we use it? Use it to think, use it to examine, use it to wait for more information? Or will we give in to first impressions, harmful instincts, and old patterns? The pause is everything. The one before, jumping to conclusions, prejudging, assuming the worst, rushing to solve your children's problems for them, forcing a problem into some kind of box, assigning blame, taking offense, turning away in fear. We pause, we gather ourselves, we put it up to the light, we ask, is this true? Is it actually as upsetting as it feels, as scary or annoying as I first thought? Don't let fear or anxiety or prejudice decide. Don't let your temper decide. Let your temperament take over. Or rather, let the temperament you're striving to have, that you know your position demands, do its work. So I loved that because there is that moment where we can pause between whatever has happened and our response to that. And sometimes it's hard to acknowledge that there is a time between. Sometimes it's hard to even make that space where there is enough time in between the stimulus and your response to make a decision on how you are going to respond. This is a practice. This is something that you work on a moment to moment, day to day basis. This is not something that you're just like, oh, I can choose to stop here and then respond, because we're often so reactionary. And so this is a practice to be able to insert that pause in a meaningful way. And there are opportunities that you can do this. You can, if you get a text message and it's already starting to trigger you're already annoyed, you're already upset, whatever, you can be like, okay, I'm putting the phone down and I'm going to take this pause because I can. And instead of choosing your immediate response, you can look at it in a step away from it a little bit and take time to decide. Like he said, hold it up to the light. Is this really as frustrating or annoying or upsetting as I initially thought? And you rethink that. And then you can decide, you can make an informed decision like, okay, they must be having a rough day. And I'm not having a rough day. So I don't need to take their rough day onto me and choose to decide or choose to respond to that in a way that your temperament, like the temperament that you are striving to have, the way that person would respond, that version of you. I am really bad at this when I feel like I'm on a schedule. I hate being late. I hate people waiting on me. I like to be there when I'm going to be there, or like when I say I'm going to be there, and like that's just me. So oftentimes when I feel like I'm meeting a time crunch, I'm like, go, go, go. I am efficient. Let's get this done. Let's just plow through. Let's go, 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 instead of slowing down. And the example that I thought of when I was considering this quote was a couple of weeks ago, my youngest refused to go to class at church. And this is uncharacteristic of her. We don't have problems going to school. We don't like, this is uncharacteristic. My kids do not have separation anxiety. They are more than fine walking away from me to a play date or to school or normally to their church class. And so I'm like, you have to go to class because I have to go to class, and like, let's go. Even though it's okay to be late, like, even though nobody cares, I cared, right? Like in my head, this was a deal. So I'm reacting not from my best self. And I'm like, look, if you don't go to class, you are going home, because Jake was at home sick. And I was like, whatever. Like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this dance with you right here. I'm frustrated. She's breaking down. It's not a great combination. So I just bring her home and I'm like, I cannot. And I go back to church when I get home, I have had some time to cool off and reflect and be like, that wasn't actually a big deal. And I made it a big deal. And I'm sorry. So when I came home, I got down on the ground and snuggled her and was like, what happened today? Like, I'm sorry. I got so upset. And I I then went into a pause that I should have gone into at church. So it was a very delayed pause, but I got there. Okay. And so, anyways, long story short, since it's the beginning of the year, she had new teachers and she felt shy. She felt scared. She didn't know them. And it was just, it all came out in a breakdown right before class. I didn't pause to ask the right questions or examine her feelings or validate what she was feeling in the moment. I needed 45 minutes to come to that. Work in progress, right? Okay, so we ended up, once I found out what the problem was, it's like, okay, we can fix this. We can do this. How do you want to, get to know your teachers better? Do you want to go take them cookies? Do you want to do this? Whatever. We can get some one-on-one time with them where you don't feel like I have to leave you with them, and you can get more comfortable with them in a different setting. She decided she wanted to take her teacher real flowers. So the next day we went to the store, we picked up some flowers, Kenna that she chose, and then we went to her teacher's house and she gave them the flowers and we got to just have a little bit of one-on-one time. Next Sunday, she went to class, no problems. So what I'm saying here is the pause, even though I took a 45-minute pause, meant a whole difference in how that situation ended up, because I chose not to come home upset. I chose to sit down and seek for understanding. I chose to ask questions and examine it and put it up under the light. So take the pause. Even if you have an initial reaction that you're not super proud of, remove yourself from it. Take the time that you need to get yourself under control, in order, and then go back to that. Go back to it, examine it, and be like, okay, how can we make this better? What can we do here? Um, so I really loved that. And now I feel like that's really empowering for me, because going into a new year next year, I can ask her before classes even change, hey, do you want to go have some one-on-one time with your teachers? Do you want to take them a treat or some flowers or something? And we can get to know them so that on the first day, you don't feel so scared and so alone. So I feel way more empowered now than just feeling like, man, every Sunday's a fight, because I stopped long enough to solve the actual problem. Um, so this is your challenge this week. Find times to pause between your stimulus and your response, and choose a response that you're proud of. Choose a response that you're like, yes, this is how the person I want to be would respond to this situation. If you have to take a 45-minute pause, take a 45-minute pause. If you are able to, somebody cuts you off on the freeway and you're just like, okay, everything's fine. We'll just keep going. That person's having a rough day and I'm going to continue on with myself. Another thing I wanted to mention that I just accidentally reminded myself of is my 4-year-old daughter. She learned this at school, and it has become one of our favorite things around here, is like when we both get too frantic, because like I said, if I feel like I'm on a time crunch, I get a little like, let's go, let's go, let's go. And I tend to, project that onto the kids because I feel that way, they feel it, and I'm just like, and what she has taught me is when we get to those like frantic and it's like escalating and everything, she stops and she pauses. And I know if you're on a podcast app, you're not going to be able to see me, but she puts her hands by her head and she just lowers them down as she exhales. Like she lets it go and just like, okay, we brought it down. We're centering all the franticness that was up here by our head. We're bringing it down. We're calming down. It's going to be okay. I loved that. That is such a good trick, such a good tool. And if you're in a place where, you get a triggering text message or email or something, and you can just put your hands by your face and just like lower them down and exhale and just, okay, we got this. We can respond in a best self way. That's a pause. That is a pause. You are taking whatever your initial reactions are that are rising to the top, you're bringing them down, and you're allowing that pause before your response. Use that trick. That is one of the best things I think her teachers have taught her, is to just bring it down, relax, we're okay, pause. Now, how do you want to respond? Not how you feel like you should respond, but how do you want to respond? Who do you want to be in this moment? So, great quote. I totally recommend the book. Ryan Holiday just has a really great way with words, a really great way of verbally kicking your butt in a, great way. So I can't recommend his books enough. They are so good. At least Courage is Calling and Discipline is Destiny is really great. And I think I have 3 others. Anyways, I hope you take a minute to pause before you respond. Choose who you want to be in that moment. Make that decision, make that response. And the more you do it, like I said in the beginning, this is a practice. The more you do it, the easier it'll become, and the more likely you are to start responding in a way that you are proud of because you have practiced it. I wish you the best week and a great day. Until next time, bye for now.